Being fooled should feel bad, but somehow, in the right moment, it's actually kind of fun. And instead of being annoyed, you laugh. Your brain actually flips from stress to reward in seconds. But why that happens, and why we even enjoy it, is where it gets really interesting. Welcome to Charmed, I'm Sure, the cozy, curious podcast where we uncover the hidden magic in everyday life. I'm Jen, and each episode we get charmed by a delightful topic that brings a little enchantment into everyday life. Today, we're getting charmed by pranks and the psychology behind why we like being fooled and why we like fooling other people. Because when you really think about it, it's a little strange. Being tricked should feel frustrating or embarrassing, or like you lost control of what was happening. But in the right moment, it turns into laughter. So what actually changes in your brain between those two experiences? Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain in that moment. Your brain is constantly predicting what's about to happen next. It builds a model of reality, and it prefers when that model is correct and predictable. So when something unexpected happens, your brain experiences what psychologists call a prediction error. That moment of, wait, that's not what I expected. Your brain is constantly comparing what it expected to what actually happened. If that moment feels threatening, your brain responds with stress. But if it quickly realizes you're safe, something interesting happens. That same surprise becomes rewarding because your brain is wired to notice novelty. And in safe situations, novelty can trigger dopamine, which is linked to pleasure, learning, and attention. So a good prank creates a very specific sequence: confusion, realization, relief, and then laughter. And that explains why being fooled can feel good. But it doesn't fully explain why we create those moments for other people. When you're the one doing the prank, you're holding a small piece of hidden information. You know something the other person doesn't know yet, and your brain starts anticipating the moment that their understanding shifts. That anticipation builds tension, and your body actually becomes a little more alert in that moment. Your heart rate might go up slightly, your attention sharpens, and there's a kind of low-level adrenaline and excitement building as you wait for the reveal. At the same time, your brain is predicting a reward. You're imagining their reaction, and that anticipation itself can trigger dopamine. So when the reveal finally happens, there's a kind of release. It's not just about tricking someone. It's about creating a moment you get to feel and witness at the same time. And that moment isn't just entertaining, it can actually be connecting. When a prank lands well, both people arrive at the same realization. Oh, this was safe. That shared shift from confusion to relief often turns into laughter. And laughter is one of the fastest ways humans bond with each other. So a good prank isn't really about deception. It's about a shared experience of surprise and creating a fun memory. And interestingly, that idea shows up in culture in a really specific way. This is part of what makes April Fool's Day so interesting. We've essentially created a day where it's socially acceptable to play with reality a little bit, to expect the unexpected. And across cultures, there's always been some version of a trickster, a figure who disrupts what's predictable and reminds us not to take everything too seriously. There's something very human about that. But of course, not every prank feels that way. The difference comes down to one thing: safety. If a prank feels confusing for too long, or crosses into embarrassment or humiliation, your brain doesn't process it as play. It processes it as stress. And that's when the same mechanism that creates laughter turns into discomfort. So when you look at it this way, it starts to shift how we think about pranks altogether. So maybe it's not that we like being fooled. It's that we like the moment where our expectations are broken and then safely put back together. That shift from confusion to realization to relief is something your brain is actually wired to enjoy. And when that happens with another person, it doesn't just feel surprising, it feels connecting. So a good prank isn't really about deception, it's about creating a moment where surprise turns into a shared experience. Thanks for getting charmed by pranks with me today. There's something kind of funny about the fact that a moment of being completely caught off guard can turn into something we actually enjoy, as long as we realize quickly enough that everything's fine. And maybe that's why it feels fun, not just to be surprised, but to create that moment for someone else too. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show to keep discovering a little charm, wonder, and inspiration each week. And if you're listening on YouTube, I'd love to know, what's the best prank you've ever pulled or had pulled on you? And did it land the way you expected? Leave me a comment. I'd love to know. And now it's time for Practical Magic, a small idea from today's episode that you can bring into your own life. This week, try creating one tiny, harmless moment of surprise for someone. Something designed to delight and amuse them. Nothing elaborate, just something simple and unexpected. Maybe you leave a note where they wouldn't expect one, or text them something slightly out of context, or do something just a little out of the ordinary that makes them pause. And then notice what happens. That moment of, wait, what? Followed by the realization and then the reaction. Because once you see that shift play out in real life, you start to notice how quickly surprise can turn into something fun and something connecting. Thanks for listening to Charmed, I'm Sure. And until next time, may every day bring a little charm your way.